Okay, here we are, everybody. We're live here with Mark Sindayen, and he's a pro bodybuilder, amongst many other things. He's here to do round two because we lost the first podcast, so we're going to try this again. So, Mark, let's talk about a little bit about, first of all, you're a pro bodybuilder. You're a family man.
Yes, sir.
How else would you describe yourself?
I'm a businessman as well, so it's crazy. I'm a businessman, a competitive bodybuilder, a father, a husband, all of the above. So,
Yeah.
I'm like not the same person I used to be 20, 25 years ago. So if you met me years ago, I'll probably be the quietest person in the room.
Right, and you've been in bodybuilding for, like, just so people know, because, like, well over 20 years, correct?
22.
Or about 22 years?
22 coming up on 23 here, so...
So around 2000 you started, which is so funny that that's 22 years ago, right?
How old were you in 2000?
I was probably, like, 14, 15, 16, something.
Oh, God, I shouldn't ask that.
Right.
I was 24 at the time. So that means you were in 8th grade.
Yeah, so I would have been 9th grade. So I would have been, like...
Nice.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah, that's crazy. I'm so bad with math. What the fuck? Well, how old was I? Let me look at this shit. 2000.
That's funny.
Yeah, dude.
So I was, let's see here. I was 2 years out of college. I graduated at Bellevue down the street here.
Okay, I would have been 15 in 2000.
15.
Actually, I was good at math. I don't know why but like too much dependence on a calculator.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was 15, but like I thought I was old. I remember like 2000, like, oh yeah, I'm an adult and shit. Like, I'm like, that's so long ago, but it's like actually not that long ago, and like I was just 15. Like I remember, yeah, that's so weird. But anyway, man, that's crazy. So you've been actually lifting since 2000.
No, I've been lifting since
Even before
I was
that.
13 years old. So backtracking here, 1989, I think, is when I started lifting. At first, parents were against weight training, so I did push-ups, sit-ups.
Ooh, was there a reason?
bodyweight
Was there a
squats.
reason they were against the weight training?
I think part of it too is all these myths. Like obviously there's injuries involved with lifting
could
weights
get
and stuff if you
hurt.
do it wrong. They were against it. Not only that, they were against that, and they were also against me playing football. I mean, because I'm not, I was a pretty little guy, so I'm
Right, and because football was before you were in football before you got into, and that's probably what kind of got you into weight training. And you said, I know you've told me before, so just so people know, we've actually recorded a podcast once, had some technical difficulties, so we're doing it again. So this is round two, like I said. So
Yes,
it's
sir.
like ring the bell, round two. So I know that you said it was kind of like your uncles that had got you into lifting.
Yeah, my dad's friends, like if you talk to any Filipino, everybody's an uncle that's a friend of my dad's, right? So the two, I'll name these guys that,
Yep.
motivated me to get in the industry. So between 89 and I think it was 1999, I worked out at this gym called Bally Total Fitness in Factoria in Bellevue, it was about literally 5 minutes down the road from where we are now. And that was my introduction to bodybuilding and fitness.
Okay.
And then I'll go back even further in between 85 and 89. I'm really dating myself now.
Right.
Where between the ages of 9 to 13, my uncle, which is my dad's brother, Tony, who actually looked the part. He looked like he was a competitive bodybuilder.
Okay.
And my father, Ricardo Sindayen, Ricky. So they introduced me to this health club chain at the time. It was Family Fitness, which transitioned to, I think, was Jazzercise. And then the next one was, it transitioned into Hearts Athletic Club, which eventually became 24-Hour Fitness. So I gave you a little history there on.
Okay, some of the
clubs.
gyms, how they've like transformed over the years.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
I think it was 89, 90-ish where I was introduced to Bally Total Fitness. It used to be Pacific West or Pac West Health Club. Back in between 89 and 94. So between the time I was a 7th grader all the way till I was a senior, I was working out between the Kirkland Bridal Trails gym
Yep.
near my high school and the Bellevue location, which was right by Bellevue Community College, where it was my introduction. So my dad's friends in the mid-'90s who were I didn't know how big they were in the industry, by the way.
Right.
They were like national champions.
They were just your dad's buddies, as far as you knew. Right?
And I didn't know how much clout they had in the industry. Romeo Villarino, which is huge inspiration for me, and Saldi Mercado. They all lived in Bellevue and Redmond at the time.
Okay.
And at the time, we also had a Gold's down the street from the gym that I was working at. But that's what was my introduction. And they were always, they had an entourage of 5-10 people, kind of like it is today at Body Shop, where you have the teams and squads working out together.
Right.
But they were always like, you should think about competing at genetics.
So the atmosphere though was really, like, you probably have a really fond memory of like those times. Like when you get like, so that's like the first gym where you like. I know, like, I have gyms like that, too, even in my hometown, where I have such a fond memory because it's kind of where you, like, first, like, learn to, like, sweat and go through, like, hardships. And, like, you remember, like, all these little different things about the gym because you spent so much time there kind of, like, learning and, growing and all that stuff. So that's probably cool, man. You got, like, and now that's all gone?
So that gym is no longer around.
Yeah.
So years down the road, I think it was like 10 or 15 or maybe 20 years later, where LA Fitness, a big box gym now, bought out Bally Total Fitness, and then eventually, Bally's is no longer in the Seattle, Washington area. It's all over the East Coast. It's a New York-based company.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I'll go to between 1994 and 1999. I was an avid weight training guy, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I was playing 2 or 3 hours a day of basketball. I was doing maybe 1 or 2 hours a day of cardiovascular, and I was weight training. So I was really trying to find what I wanted to do. So I just wanted to be, this is going to sound really dumb. I know a lot of trainers are going to laugh at this because this is stuff we hear all the time. And I was that person that actually said this. I want to be toned, but I don't want to have muscle. That's like the dumbest comment that.
And now as a trainer, that makes no sense to you.
Yeah,
right?
It makes no sense at all. But at the
You're
time,
like, I don't want to get too big kind of guy. Like,
yeah.
Like you see these big bodybuilders that just look like insane, and at the time you're probably thinking like you're in a different mindset.
Yeah, I don't want to be that big. I don't. That's a little too.
It's like too much for me. Yeah.
So.
And now you've probably taken your body to quite a few extremes. That's like the funny part about it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, we'll get into some of that later.
Yeah,
but
I did. I decided to do my first show, in prep for it in 1999 when I met, a couple friends. And then I decided to hire my first coach in '99, preparing my first show.
Right.
It took a whole year to get on stage. And I also attended my first bodybuilding show and actually watched it before I got on stage. In 1999, at Everett High School, it was the NPC Washington Ironman.
Okay.
So after that, I had seen videos of competitions. That my wife ordered for me online, and then
so
I ended up
you
going to
were
my
already
first
married
show.
at this time?
No. At the time, she was my girlfriend.
Oh, your girlfriend.
So,
She'd ordered these online. So you had started getting like an interest in bodybuilding. So you started watching it. Did you watch it online first, or was the show the first time you saw it live?
There was no online back then.
Oh,
really.
shit. There was no online. Yeah, dude. Okay, so the videos. I mean, she had already gotten you some of these videos. I forgot we used to like watch stuff on VHS.
Yeah, she ordered it. I think it was through the internet was fairly new at the time.
Dude, I should know this because like all the WWF stuff I watched is like we used to go to the video store and rent it. Like you and your buddy, like for the weekend you'd rent like video games and fucking.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that's crazy. So she had gotten you. She's your girlfriend at the time, gotten you some of these videos to watch.
So it was the 1998 Mr. Olympia.
Yes.
And the 1999 Mr. Olympia. So those two.
And who were the big guys at that time? Like, who were the big names that really, when you watched those, was there anybody that stood out where you're like, that's awesome?
Oh, some of the, probably the best of all time was winning the Olympias at the time. Ronnie Coleman.
Right.
greatest bodybuilder in history.
Yep.
98, 99, there was guys like Flex Wheeler, Aaron Baker, who's a good friend of mine now, Sean Ray, Chris Cormier, Milo Sarchev, who's a popular coach now. Who else? Gunter Schleikenkamp, Darren Charles. Who else? Lee Priest. Just a lot of big names that was my beginning of exposure to bodybuilding. So I just studied and watched, the competitions and watched their posing routines, how they conducted themselves. And honestly, before I got those videos, between 89 and about 99, I was watching shows on ESPN. Because bodybuilding used to be on ESPN. We had a couple shows that were on ESPN. There was American Muscle Magazine, which I recorded, and I never at the time I was really not into the competition aspect. I was just trying to get some training principles and find out different training styles, to get bigger for football. That was between 1990 and 1994.
So it was more based on football.
It was based on football and athletics. I just wanted to be bigger and beef up so I could take some punishment because my parents were scared to death of me being on a football field.
Right, which makes sense now, but, with all the CTE and stuff like that. But, yeah. Oh, I could see why parents, that's weird.
We didn't even know what that was back then.
No, there was, nothing like that.
Because we were launching on people's heads at the time. I mean, there was no helmet-to-helmet at the time.
Right.
A lot of us could have died playing on the football field between early 90s and late 90s. Man, we were people. There were a lot of there was no helmet to helmet penalties. We would annihilate people's heads, helmet to helmet. Blindside hits.
Yeah, it's violent, man.
It's a violent sport. But that was that's the reason why I got into weight training, so I could basically withstand all that punishment through the years of playing football.
That makes sense. Yeah, your body really can handle more punishment if you put on some muscle, for sure.
Absolutely.
Like, same thing in wrestling. It's like if some of these guys have, no, you can tell they don't lift at all, and then it's like they're getting hurt. It's like, it's not always just about, how you look.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Your body's just going to be more capable of handling.
For that in football, it's more about how can I get stronger to kick somebody's ass? Right,
and then so your body's able to withstand impact. You know what I mean? If there's more muscle, it's more protection, and it heals. It's going to heal better, and I don't know. But anyway, so you got into that because football first, then you start watching all these guys. You start getting when you were watching those videos and stuff that your girlfriend got you, or your wife now, was that in your mind already that this is something I could do, or was it starting to become a seed in your mind, or was that because your uncles or your dad's friends kind of were like, you should do this?
Yeah, so those guys planted the seeds for me.
Right.
But when I started getting in the videos, this is really...
You were already absorbing it and watching, almost like studying tape, right?
Yeah, it's literally what I wanted to do.
Yep.
I'm not knowing where it was going to lead to. It was a hobby. I was very passionate about it. When I get passionate about something, I study.
Right.
I study what I'm getting.
Absorb it all. Yeah.
So at the time, career-wise, I didn't even know what I wanted to do.
Yep.
I was between jobs for a long time.
You just knew this is something that's sucking me in.
Yep.
This is drawing me in, and I'm going to absorb it. And so you're watching these guys, you said, how they conduct themselves, how they carry themselves, how they do their posing routine. So it was all probably starting to kind of
correct. And then I had
to find who
you've
become.
And I had to make sure I found the right mentors too, and I got aligned with the right people from the very beginning.
Right.
So, and it's been that way ever since. So.
And you can talk about that. So these are your dad's friends, who you call your uncles. They're the ones that kind of put this into your head, and then you do your first show in what year again?
That was 2000.
In 2000.
Yeah, and I hired my first coach in '99. I think we trained for a good 6 months to a year. His name's Dave Thomas. I always give credit to the people who started this. And then after that, after my first show, I hired who is a great friend of mine and mentor today, Turk Fickling, who won the Emerald Cup in 1998.
Okay, sick.
Yeah.
So when you first did that first show, how was your training then? Versus how it's changed now, or what's your opinions on training? Like,
It's
what was
changed.
the style a lot back then when you first started?
I was honestly following whatever my coach had me do. It started, with either straight sets. I learned how to do. I'll get into terminology here, but also explain what that actually means.
Right.
Straight sets is like you basically do five sets of a particular exercise. Maybe you rest 30 seconds to a minute. And whatever rep range my coach told me to do, anywhere from 5 to 10 or 12 reps or whatever, that's a straight set. And then giant sets is where you collaborate like 5 different exercises of the same body part, and you do it back to back to back. It's like doing a circuit for the same body part. Like say if you did, like for example, quads, right?
And he had you doing a lot of that.
Leg extensions, front squats, sissy squats, and maybe walking lunges, or maybe a goblet squat or something like that. Doing the same body part for 5 straight exercises is pretty brutal. That's like one of the things I was exposed to. Or the other one is like a tricep. It's like a mini giant set. It's like 3 exercises of the same body part as an example. But over the years, it's really evolved and changed, because in the beginning I was taught a lot of principles from legendary bodybuilders like Dorian Yates and Mike Mensor. Everything was to failure, I would say. From
Dorian Yates is just the shit, man.
Yeah, so from 2000 to 2013 or so, I almost ran myself into the ground, to be honest with you. I was trained in failure almost all the time.
It's just you were like obsessed with this thing. You're like, I want this thing, and you're like on it. Like you're like hunting for it. So it's like you're like tunnel vision at this thing.
Right.
So you're like maybe overdoing it a little bit.
Yeah.
But you said your genetics are pretty good, so it was like your body was probably pretty capable of handling that.
It was.
But you probably could have optimized more if you knew the stuff you knew now, correct? Like
yeah. So like I would say around, I think it was 2010-ish.
I mean, look at this dude, Dorian Yates. I pulled him out. This dude is insane, man.
Mm-hmm. One of the greatest ever.
And he's still cool as fuck. I've seen him recently on some podcasts, and he's a cool dude.
Mm-hmm. I've never actually met him in person, but it would be cool to
meet him someday. That'd be dope, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But his training, I have some of his videos. I still watch him today, even while I'm, doing cardio at home or something like that. So
just kind of get like pumped up. You just watch it like for inspiration. Yeah, that's sick, dude.
Yeah, but so for a long time it was a hobby. It's just something I love to do, and I loved being on stage, which is kind of weird. I loved being on stage, but I was also scared to be on stage because I got a stage fright.
Yep. So you've told me this before, that you used to have stage fright, and then it's
still there. I just been able to manage it.
But now you're like probably considered one of the most unique performers, I would say, on the bodybuilding stage because of what you do with breakdancing. So that's what I was trying to think of in the beginning. Like I'm like bodybuilder, family man, athlete, sponsored athlete, and then I forgot the breakdancing part.
Yeah,
dude.
so that part, I wasn't really that great at it. It was just something my brothers and I were passionate about, that we seeked out, all this information, and we literally taught ourselves. It was between 94 and 95 when the scene kind of came back, especially in the Seattle area. It was pretty hot at the time.
So that scene was big in the 80s and then kind of had a resurgence in like the early 90s, you think?
Yeah. Okay. Mid-90s, 95, 94. So that actually helped me, taught me how to be a performer. I wouldn't say I was even that good, to be honest with you. So because it was, I'll probably have my brothers on here at some point.
Right.
Some of the most talented guys, probably the most talented one of all of us is my youngest, who you would probably want to have on here.
Okay,
probably one of the greatest ever in the history of the Northwest. For
breakdancing.
For breakdancing, and competed with some of the best that some of the most well-known dance crews that are still popular today.
No way. That's awesome, man. How many brothers do you have, brothers and sisters?
I have 2 younger brothers, Christian, and then he still travels today, and he has he's married and has a son now. And then my youngest brother, Regan, who you probably see at the gym now and then, we have like these family workouts. He has a I think an 8 or 9-year-old daughter, and then an older son.
Yep.
Who plays lacrosse, but he coaches today as well for I think it was football that he helps out with here and there. But we still get down here and there. One of these days we'll we'll head to either the Linwood Ballroom Dance Studio, where I do a lot of my posing classes, or the Big Iron. Anything that has a wood floor is like heaven for a dancer.
So that Big Iron, the back room there, where they got the mirrors and everything.
The back room, yeah. So, but that's another a passion that my brothers and I. That's how actually we bond. We bond through basketball, athletics, and dancing.
And break dance. Yeah, that's dope, dude.
Yeah, we've been on stage together a couple times. We were on stage together, I think, twice. 2018 NPC Washington Ironman, and the 2019 Emerald Cup. So we've been on some pretty awesome stages. So because of that, that skill that we acquired years ago, I've been able to utilize it as a tool for my guest performances as well.
Right, and so like, is there? Because how many people that are doing bodybuilding shows are doing like breakdance routines in it?
Not a lot.
So you're probably unique in that sense, right?
Yeah, there's like maybe, I think probably less than 5 or 10 competitors.
Yeah.
That do that are Olympians, or do that popping, locking, and wave stuff. Like I'll name a couple of my idols that are legendary bodybuilders who've been able to mix their posing routines with some breakdancing or some popping and locking, like Melvin Anthony. Or as like some guys like Kai Green, who was a top Olympian.
Yep.
And
I remember him.
A lot of people don't know Darren Charles, who was a very popular performer and bodybuilder back in the late 90s. And then who else can I think of here? I know I'm missing somebody here. That's an Olympian that does that too. I don't know why, but I'll probably get back to that later.
It'll come to you later on. You'll be like, oh, that was that name. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the part of bodybuilding that I love the most. I love doing creative stuff and doing stuff that's a little bit out of the box, like some of those competitors that I mentioned and legendary guys that I mentioned. And even then, also, I would say my coaches, Turk Fickling and Andre Scott, were very, very popular performers. Some of the greatest performances in the history of the Northwest and the Emerald Cups, which is cool, by the way, because Andre was the 97 Emerald Cup overall bodybuilding champ. Turk was the 1998 Emerald Cup. So my lineage of coaches are very strong and amazing performers, not just great bodybuilders.
Right, man. That's awesome. And how did you get linked up with those guys? Was it just through?
So Turk, I met in 2000, and little did I know at the time he was my boss, and I didn't know really anything about the guy. He was like the district manager for training for the big corporate company Bally's at the time, and I was getting ready for my first show. I think it was early 2000, January 2000, where I met Turk, and he planted.
So you were working at Bally's at the time
in Renton. Yeah, I was
Nice.
I was a manager.
Okay.
I ran my own club. So
how was that experience? You think that helped you quite a bit?
It helped me a little bit. Gave me
how to sell, sales, and
Yeah, it helped me a little bit in that area. It was my first experience to work in the health club industry, to be honest with you.
Right.
And yeah, a lot of sentiments there, because those were my seeds. To
right.
Where
like
I am
you were
today.
saying. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we had some amazing competitors walking through that door that I was exposed to, and to this day I'm friends with all those guys.
Well, it's like that thing about like kind of like the people you're around are gonna create who you become, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're around, so all these people that have made these impacts on your life, it's like,
which is
if
very
you
important.
hadn't met them, you might not become the person that you are now. So
No.
all these little, these
not just bodybuilding, so
connections
person too.
Yeah, people.
So,
It doesn't just have to be bodybuilders. Just people who shape who you are, like important figures in your life. And if you hadn't met any of them, you might not become who you are meant to be.
And it helps your confidence too when you surround yourself with people that are confident. So
and positive,
and that are
want to do something with their life, and they're not playing a victim, and they're not like trying to be negative all the time.
Absolutely,
I think that's a huge thing, man.
Yeah, and then those are the kinds of guys I needed, because they're very straight up. They don't pull any punches. So if I'm screwing up life wise, they'll tell me. If I'm screwing up bodybuilding wise, they'll tell me. There's no.
I feel like you need those people around you.
Yeah, because at the same time, so we are all guilty. We have our little victories here and there. Me included. You start smelling your own roses and start believing all the hype about yourself, you have people like that in your lives constantly keeping you grounded. So there is a huge difference between confidence and arrogance. So like if you're arrogant, you know, you basically you believe you could do it and nobody else can. That's arrogance.
Right.
So I surrounded myself with people who are confident. So that's a difference. People who are confident, they did it. They believe, you know, everything they did with it.
You have to believe you can do it.
And they believe others can do it. That is confidence.
Well, and the difference is, I think what you're talking about is some people are delusional. That would be like the arrogance.
Correct.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But you're right, man. It is like the people you're around, because it's like, you know, even like I have my coach Jordan, you know, and then Kimberly.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Like I've told you
Great
that before. Oh, they're awesome. But it's like I said, and when you're around people like that, or you or other people, even a lot of the people at the body shop, I would say, because it's such a good atmosphere. The minute you start feeling lazy or you start feeling like sorry for yourself, it's like all you have to do is look around and be like, oh, they're going to have zero sympathy for me. Yeah, because look how hard they're working.
And then
you know, and it makes you work harder.
And then the part of that too is each of those people, you know, have a story. So everybody thinks that we just came that way, you know, like anything anybody sees on social media, I think we just came that way. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that came. Well,
you're talking about like the must be nice people.
Correct.
Like must be nice, and then they have no frame of reference to the amount of work or like if they had put in the work and the journey that you did, they would have the same type of thing. But they think like it was just magically gifted to you or something.
No, they think it was all drugs, and they, you know, like, hey, wait a minute, we worked our butts off here.
Must be nice. All that shit.
So it's like the thing about that too is like regarding marriages and, you know, relationships, having strong relationships.
Because those are hard too, right?
Oh yeah, it's just like it
takes work, right?
It correlates the same thing to what we do in bodybuilding. So to get better, we got to get through resistance, right? So like you get resistance every time you perform those reps. There's resistance, and then what do you do to get better? Keep increasing resistance, right? So like the same thing that I was saying about friendships or relationships. In order to have a solid one,
it takes work, right?
It's like what it takes.
Or practicing it.
Yeah. So it's like what it takes for, like my pastor mentioned this when we got married, and something I don't forget. And this is basically how it is life-wise. How do you sharpen a sword, right? You sharpen a sword with heat and pressure. So it's the same thing with friendships, relationships, your business, bodybuilding. You got to go through pain to sharpen yourself. Yeah, you got to go. You got to go through heat. If you don't go through the heat, now everybody could misconstrue what we all post on social media. Oh, we have strong marriages, 20 years, 25 years, this and that. There was a lot of heat and pressure and a lot of shit that came between that.
Right.
So like there were peaks and there were valleys. There were fights. There were.
Man, that's so interesting.
Yeah, there were. So there would be like intense moments of fellowship, fighting, whatever you want to call it, arguments, disagreements. In order to build your character and to become a stronger person, that's just, that's what you have to go through, business-wise, marriage-wise, bodybuilding-wise, relationship-wise. It's the whole thing. You got to accept all of it.
Right.
So.
No, I really like. I mean, that's like how diamonds are made too. Like heat and pressure. It's like
correct. Yep. Yeah. It's not just a cliche. It's real, man.
You ever listen to like Mike Tyson say that kind of stuff? He's like, he's like, do what you hate to do, but do it like you love it. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
he's like, do what you don't want to do, but do it like you love it.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's like I love like some little nuggets of wisdom like that, because it's like it's so true. It's like discipline is like a really hard thing.
It is.
But if you get it on point, it takes away your anxiety.
That's where you got to change your thought process. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's hard." Well, yeah, it is, because you're saying it's hard. So yeah, don't get me wrong, it's hard.
But if you think about it's hard, or if you think like I'm a piece of shit, you become a piece of shit. If you think I can do it, you can do it. If you think you can't do it, you can't do it.
It's your thought process. So if that's all you think about, and and the other part too, it's not what you say to yourself, it's the people you surround yourself with. So if you surround yourself with people that are at our levels that you want to be at without jealousy or anything like that, and you need to purposely put yourself around these people, whether it's somebody that's excelling in business, they're excelling in, I don't know, for example, they're excelling as a coach in nutrition, they're excelling as a coach in posing, they're excelling as an encourager, and
But
that's not your natural ability, you have to surround yourself with those kinds of people if that's what you want to be.
And that'll help you elevate because you're just
Yeah.
gonna feed off. You're gonna learn
Always.
from those people.
Always.
Yeah, and I think it's like then not getting caught up in all the little, sometimes those are like, oh, so and so hates so and so, and these people. I try to stay out of all that stuff
Right.
too. Like,
I mean,
all the beefs, and
it's part of it, in anything you do, because if you're doing anything of significance, you're gonna encounter some resistance, and you either accept it. That's the one thing my wife says. So she was always blunt about it. She's like, "So quit." I'm like, "What? No, I can't." It was like, "Then stop complaining."
so it's like learning how to deal with criticisms because when you are trying to do something at a
and
certain
don't get me
level,
wrong, we have our moments, where you have your moments where you just go off the deep end and you're like, man, I can't handle this anymore or whatever. And you
that's
have
when you get in fights with people.
and you have your
Right.
and you have your little valleys. But so if you can't pull yourself out of that, though, what does that say about you as a person? So it helps build your character. So that's one of the things I appreciate about my wife is she's straight up just like my coach is. So I'm surrounded with people who don't pull any punches with me. And
Dude, I love that. I love that cheesy shit, like those
Oh.
cheesy, like fucking, like I'm a huge Stallone fan, and I
Yeah.
love like the Rocky movies where he's like, you used to fit right here in my hand, and he's like doing like that whole speech about
That's
like,
funny.
that's what quitters do, he's like, you're not a quitter, and all that shit,
Oh
just
my
like,
God. Yep. Yeah,
man.
that's exactly, why I'm surrounded with people that I am. So it's going to hurt is what they say to me. I'm like, it's going to hurt physically, it's going to hurt mentally, but usually when you're going through the fire and you're going through something that's has a lot of resistance, and you're fighting for that gold or that medal, that trophy, or whether it's to succeed in finances, you're gonna go through resistance.
I mean, even right now listening to you, dude, it's like making me feel like super inspired.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Like, I feel like that's a cool thing about what you do because you got into coaching because of your love of bodybuilding.
Yes.
But now you're able to, for over 20 years, and how long have you been coaching?
9 years total. I've had my own team for 6 years now.
Yeah. I mean, think of just like the positive impacts you get to have on people's life, and you kind of, like you're saying, you're leading by example. But like even right now when I was hearing you talk, I'm like, yeah, it's like it's making me feel pumped up. It's like inspiring.
So the thing that also what I was talking about was when you protect yourself, you have to surround yourself with good vibes of people. So if you surround yourself with people that have negative vibes, then that's the direction you're going to go. So you have control over that. Nick has control over that. Mark has control over that, or whoever your friends are. If we don't control who we're around, we're just going to become those people. So
I agree, man.
So if you want to excel as a coach, as a businessman, as a person, as a husband, a boyfriend, girlfriend, a dad, you have to surround yourself with people like that. They don't necessarily. It's not comfortable at all when you're around those people because it's like almost like pisses you off, right? Because like, man, I need to be in that.
Well, you kind of want to be around people that make you a little uncomfortable, right?
You have to be uncomfortable
just by how good, like I said, like Jordan and Kimberly are my coach. Like I look at how hard they work, and I'm just like, I can't complain today, or I can't be like, oh, I didn't want to feel like doing my
absolutely.
Like I just saw them up at like 6 in the morning doing their cardio, getting it in. It's like
that's all you need.
They're working hard, so it's
that's
like
all you need, man.
So that's the power. Shows me the power of like leading by example. Just like, and I get that too. Like even at work and stuff. Like I've got a friend of mine that's trying to lose weight, and he's coming in and telling me about it, and he's inspired by my fitness and all this stuff. And like just by being who you are, sometimes you don't realize who's watching you.
Absolutely. And then the cool thing sometimes is I like getting my athletes around my coach so they can see that I'm being coached too.
Right.
So, and it's kind of scary because a lot of people are used to me being the one that's talking, the one that's leading the room, right, or whatnot.
Like the guy in charge.
The guy in
he,
charge.
has all the answers.
When your clients, whether it's, old clients like, Nam was Brecky or, Carlo Nunag or Paula Guerrero or people that have gotten a chance to get around Andre Scott, my coach, my shameless plug there.
Right.
And Laura Crowley, Boonmi Sangsori as some of my elite athletes, they see me get coached and they're like, dang, if he's getting coached like that and he's accepting that, we need to be that coachable too. So you'll find me when I get my athletes or friends around my coaches, I'm literally sitting there like a student. I don't say a word. I don't give my input unless they ask, if that makes sense. So that's the important part. And that way they can see, okay, he's human too. I'm like, yeah, no fucking shit.
Well, it's like nobody that tells you they have all the answers actually is probably somebody you should listen to.
Yeah, and
because usually the people you should listen to are kind of like, I don't know. We'll see what, maybe it could be that way, or like, like anybody that's too sure of themselves or too sure of things. I feel like the most intelligent, most successful people.
That's a dangerous place to be.
Because it's that delusion thing again, like you're saying. So it's like
you never want to think you have arrived.
You never want to get too comfortable, right?
Right.
Yeah. Otherwise, how are you going to stay sharp yourself?
So there was a distinct moment. I think it was beginning of prep. I was prepping probably for my biggest show ever. It was the Arnold Classic, biggest show I've ever done.
What year was this?
That was I decided to do it. I think it was January of 2019.
And is this the one where you went down a weight class? And
no. This is what
we'll talk about that later.
This was going to my second year doing the men's physique division. And I was experimenting with stuff for my diet, which, sometimes it's not good to tell everything you're doing to your coach. No, I'm kidding. No, you need to be transparent. So I was, this is a funny story because
he gave you a diet and you were playing with it. Is that what you're saying? Or
no,
were just experimenting in general?
We were experimenting in general.
Oh, with your coach.
And I was being... because how my relationship and my with my coaches now is more of like a consultation just to fine tune me for the last 4 to 8 weeks.
Right.
My coaches don't do full preps with me.
Because you're like at a certain level, you can do some of it yourself.
Right.
And then,
right.
But I still need impartial eye.
You still need the second eye.
I think you always need an impartial eye. That's not you.
So I was trying this carb that I don't normally eat. I was trying Eggo waffles. Not kidding about this at all.
They're so good, dude.
And they're amazing. I was like, I just wanted to see how it works with my body. And then I could see the facial expressions on my coach. And my two of my athletes were there, right?
Yeah.
And he literally said, I need you to plug your ears right now, you two. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what did I do? And then he's like, okay, I'm only going to say this straight up. I'm going to say this one time. You're preparing for the Arnold Classic. This ain't no local show anymore. This ain't no small pro show. And this is literally what he said. I need you to pull your head out of your ass. And I'm like...
You're trying to justify Eggo waffles.
And then, and my clients would see this, right?
Yeah.
So I need you to go back to what actually works and what works for your body. And damn well for sure that is not it. I'm like,
He's
okay.
Like, this isn't the time to be experimenting. So, maybe when you're like bulking and you don't have to be that big, then you can throw some Eggo waffles in,
and don't get me wrong, it probably may work for other people, but it certainly, your coach knows you better sometimes than anybody else does. It's like the two people that know you the most is whoever you're with,
right,
your spouse, and your mentors. Those are the two people that know you the best. They know your flaws. They know what you're strong at.
I agree, man, because like I had a close relationship with my wrestling promoter. Because, I used to wrestle for years. Troy Peterson, shout out to Troy.
Right.
And like that dude is so good at calling me out on my bullshit. And like we'll have like 2-hour conversations on the phone sometime. I mean, basically like a podcast, but it's like I'll say something and he's like, yeah, bullshit. He'll just call me out, and it's like good to have because it's like
that's funny.
Well, yeah, because they know you. They kind of know you better than you know yourself a little bit, or they see your kind of your blind spots for yourself, and it's like
absolutely. You have to have people like that,
and they're willing to tell you the truth. That's how you know that they actually love and care about you.
That's how you get better. So it's like, like if you get an argument with a friend, right? Friends know everything about you, right? But they're still your friends, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're still your friends because they know you're still trying to do something about it. You're trying to get better. However, if you have a friend that allows you to keep failing, that ain't a friend.
Right. So if that's an enabler, that's different.
Yeah. So you're if you enable people to be around you that it's okay. It doesn't matter what your friends are. They mean well, but they don't know what they're talking about. That's probably the wrong person to surround yourself with.
I'd say like all my best friends like from back home are like so good at like. We give each other shit.
It's good.
It's not. It's like real friends. You know what I'm saying? Like they know your flaws, but they will call you out on your bullshit. And I think so. I have like my best friend Stevie. I got my best friend Mickey. Like there's tons of others. My buddy James Jeffries. So
there's people you grew up with?
Yeah, so the people I grew up with, and then once I got into the wrestling community, that was like a whole nother family, similar to probably bodybuilding. Because you're like, you're doing these shows on weekends where you're driving 5 hours in a car, and you're going to some county fair, and then you're throwing each other around a ring and bleeding and sweating and fucking punching each other in the face. So you get pretty close, and yeah, so it's like, I don't know, there's just people you can trust to not be full of shit. And then you have these other people that are acquaintances, so it's like you don't really, you know what I mean? Like, that's different than a real friend. Real friends will give you shit.
Yes, absolutely, because they know you to be at a certain, you've raised the standard for yourself, right?
Right.
So they're like, well, this is not you at all. Like,
they would know if I was doing something a little off. They'd be like, Nick, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like,
yep. That's like the same with my coaches. A lot of them are military. One of my coaches for the last 4 years, he's a lieutenant colonel in the Army, Sean Calder.
Dude, that's what you want, military dudes.
Oh, yeah.
Because they are like no nonsense.
No nonsense, and, they're people where, they're where I want to be, and they're inspirational too, but they have no problem saying, that does not look like the product that you normally put on stage. And that he was one of those
like
people.
That's subpar. Maybe they'll tell you if it's like you're slipping.
It's like, that is not the mark I know. You're better than that. At least they can point it out. So will you make mistakes? Absolutely. You will always make mistakes until the day you go into 6 feet under the ground.
Well, I remember last time you were here on the poor podcast that we lost. That was awesome. You talked about that, like that you're not gonna, like, if you're gonna succeed, you're gonna fail like a ton.
You gotta.
And if you're not failing, you're not gonna ever succeed, right? Like,
Yep. Because how are you gonna know how to bounce? I mean, that's how you can tell the difference between somebody who has good character and that's gonna be a champion eventually, and that somebody who hasn't. I mean, nobody wants to hear like a flawless story. You gotta. I mean, if you look at, for example, your coaches, myself, and then other coaches that are in the building at Body Shop, we all have our own story.
Oh my God! So many interesting stories.
So many stories, and some were like deep.
That's part of why I wanted to kind of get going with this podcast, dude. Like, it's because there's all these, like you said, you got all these heroes, these guys around you that it's like there is that at the Body Shop and like other gyms around here, and it's like if you start talking to these people, you find out how interesting they are.
Yeah, and the other part of it too is it humbles you. You're like, oh crap, my life is pretty easy compared to what they had to go through. Like, for example. I never had, I come from a good background. I was always surrounded in high school and in bodybuilding. I was surrounded with lots of peer pressure, whether it's, drugs or whatever. I have never allowed that to influence me and stuff. Yeah. But also, when you have other people that have gone through that, I can't necessarily relate to other people that have gone through that. So when I have people like that around me, I could reference those people. Because I'm not a saint either, but
you can learn from them. Or
right, I came from a suburban background, so I never had any drug issues.
I know, dude. I'm pretty lucky that way too.
My issues are anger.
Yeah,
anger issues, and what else? Self-doubt, whatever you want to call it. Confidence issues, combination of the
and three. That's kind of what drives you probably, and then that's what helps you grow your confidence through all these things that you do.
Right.
Yeah, that's the same with me. Like I'm so lucky. Like I had amazing parents. My parents are still together. You know what I mean? Like 37 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's like I've had like, just my family was like, we weren't like rich or anything. We were, but like I've never had to.
And where are you originally from?
From Iowa.
They live in Iowa?
And they still live there. Yeah, so super small town.
37 years. That's amazing.
That's awesome. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I grew up like, I wouldn't say we ever, I mean, we weren't rich, but we never wanted for anything. Like we had, so but then my point is, you hear these other people and some of their backgrounds are just like horrific, and how they've become this amazing person. They had to fight through so much. So it does humble you, like, man, and it makes me think like the stupid shit I've, like arguments with my parents or this or that, or like it's like some of the resentments you get, and it's like, oh my God, and all that stuff goes away the older I get.
See, I didn't grow up with that kind of a household. I mean, you're blessed, man, because I grew up with a lot of conflict in the household.
Really?
My parents, just to be real transparent, it was a very, I would say, how would I say this? Argumentative household. It was very violent. I mean,
Right.
our parents did never beat us. I mean, did they discipline us? Old school, yes.
My dad did that stuff. Like he'd
Yeah.
spank us and stuff, but
Yeah.
it wasn't. I mean,
There was no closed fist, none of that.
No.
But I just picture as a kid, plates flying all over across the room. That's what I was exposed
Yeah,
to.
man.
Phones flying across the room.
and that stuff will affect you.
So what the great thing that I actually learned though, my mom was very hardworking. My father's very hardworking. Is that resonates with me, and that my father taught me two things. It was work ethic, and number two, as much as my mom did, he never hit her. And
Right.
and he's a trained killer.
So she could throw shit at him.
He's
and
a
he would-
bodyguard and security command for president.
Yeah.
And the son now for what almost 1965. What is that? How many years is that? That's 57 years
Yep.
of being trained with hand-to-hand combat, guns or whatever. Anybody else could have easily broke down and probably wouldn't
Done
be a good
something
result.
stupid. Yeah.
My mom's little. She's 4'11", like a feisty little thing, but but very hard worker. Great heart. But that's the.
So you got work ethic from both of them.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
The household I grew up in was crazy, man. That's what we grew up with, myself and my brothers. Maybe that's
Really?
what. So that maybe not maybe, but I know where it came from. But that's where the temperament came from
Right.
on my side. So it actually.
No, I'm pretty lucky. Yeah. It's like mine was like, my dad's a pretty stoic, no nonsense guy. So there's
Yeah.
no bullshit. So
Mhm.
when I was young, I think we would butt heads and everything. And
Mhm.
now that I'm older, I'm actually really glad that he was hard on us. You know
Right.
what I mean? Because
Right.
but yeah, nothing crazy like that. So, but yeah, then you hear these people that have like, dude, like you said, I never got into the drug stuff and everything, but I know a lot of people that they went through that kind of thing.
Right.
And then to realize that you have like the power to completely change that. And you know what I mean? Like, because
Yeah.
I know a lot of bodybuilders that had that kind of thing. And,
Mhm.
rock stars too, or I'll listen to stuff where like they're in this one spot in their life and then they'll completely change it. Like, they get into like jujitsu or something cool that's more positive. So they'll take
Right.
that energy. And I feel like there's something about taking that energy that you're putting into this thing and then putting it into something healthier.
Right.
It's kind of like growing the healthy part of you. So instead of like focusing on the old version, you're like creating and building this new version that doesn't do that anymore. You know what I mean? And all those guys. I'm sure a lot of the guys that have had those kind of situations and then they found like bodybuilding or health and fitness is kind of their way out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
or even religion too.
Yeah, absolutely. So like, I could say over the last 22 years, I'm not the same person I was 22 years ago. So,
Yeah.
now, I have, it's pretty humbling. I'm leading all these people that have achieved things in life that I never have. So like people that are accountants, people that are software engineers, people that are real estate brokers, people that own their own companies. I even have, I'll even shout out one of my,
Shout them out, dude.
one of my clients, she owns 4 med spas, entrepreneur, self-made. It was on Forbes. You probably should get her on here.
Who's this?
Her name's Shay Sim. Just to get an example of one of my entrepreneur clients, Christy Hannah Cruz, who owns her own hair salon out in Normandy Park in Burien. I mean, I've had some amazing people come into my life. People who work for either big name companies or CEOs of their own.
Yeah.
I even have young kids who changed into grow up into amazing people. So, and I've had I coach other trainers that are trainers themselves because they're just like me. They're
Yeah.
looking to get better and they don't act like they know everything. You know what I mean? So I've had the privilege of being able to have access and coach those kinds of people because I am coached by those kind of people.
Right.
So,
I found that since I've gotten into this, man, that like all the coaches are like everybody has a coach. Like your coach has a coach. Your coach's coach probably has a coach.
I even have people who, obviously everybody has their own bookkeeper, accountant to make sure they're on point with their finances. They're making the right decisions.
Yes.
I even have my pastor. And his wife have been amazing people to my wife and myself to keep us on point, to be able to say, hey, watch your motive.
What's your pastor? Shout out to him, or who?
Pastor James out of Charisma Christian Center in Linwood, and his wife Sharon Reyes. I actually train Sharon and my wife Mondays and Wednesdays.
Okay, cool.
To be able to have them allow us to be around their lives. Of course, it makes it evident and obvious to us that we need to surround ourselves with people, because all of us have issues. Me included.
Oh, dude, everybody. Even the person that has their shit totally together.
Yeah, yep.
That's not a mistake that it looks like, because they're working on their issues.
It looks like they have their stuff together.
Well, there's certain people that I think everybody, even when they do have their shit together, it's like it's because they're working on it.
Right.
And
that's the key part. As long as you're working on it, you're in the right direction. So as long as you recognize it.
Right.
And then, like I said, you're surrounding yourself with the right people, you'll be good.
And I tell younger people that all the time, because they and I've done this in the past when I was younger, and talking about my wrestling promoter, he would call me out on that. Is like, you think your problems are so unique, like nobody else has to deal with. Everybody else has problems. Everybody, you think somebody has their shit together, they have problems. You're not unique. You're not special. Everybody has these problems. You just have to learn how to deal with them in a healthy way, right?
Yep.
And that's like your support system would be like your pastor, your friends, your other coaches. Like, I think that's important to have some kind of like community around you too. That's like keeps you, like you said, sharp, keeps you on point, makes sure that you're doing things for the right reasons. And then even all the people that you coach, like you were giving a shout out, and think about all the different things you learn just from interacting with all these people.
Oh, you learn that people have different personalities. Not everybody can be coached the same way. So, some people need military coaching. Some people need that staff sergeant coaching. Some people need that. All they need is that encouraging coaching, because they're doing everything that you tell them to do, right?
Right.
It's not necessary, in my opinion, to micromanager, be an in-your-face type of coach with that particular kind of individual. However, since I've been coached by guys who are straight up, don't pull any punches, when I've been a dumbass, they've been able to say, hey, dude, stop doing that shit.
And so that's the kind of coaching that probably works good for you.
Yeah, it depends. Like, sometimes it's like, Mark, we almost have to cuss sometimes to get through to you, because you're not listening. Or, like, an example is, usually somebody who's a little bit more on the confident side, they do their homework. Maybe they're a little bit, I would say, on the closer to the cocky side. Well, I'm going to need to pull that coaching hat out from my coaches, because I don't normally coach people that way. So if that person is, being a little more challenging, I have to put on that.
Is that where you have to humble them a little bit to keep them sharp?
Oh, yeah. So, because sometimes I wait a minute. I don't do this to my own coaches. There was a story back in the day one time where I got an athlete that was a big mistake, by the way.
Yep.
To get around one of my coaches.
Oh, I'm sure you've had that too.
Oh yeah. So
bad experiences.
I had a guy that was just, cocky as hell or whatever, confident, and my coach humbled him. That was the last time I ever got anybody who was quote unquote arrogant around my coaches, because he ate their lunch. I mean, it was so bad. I mean,
did you end up keep working with this guy, or was it something that just didn't
it was because I didn't know how to coach back then, and I was just excited to share everybody who my coach was. So I got this particular individual, and I'll tell this whole story because it's hilarious as hell. And the guy was being a little arrogant, and we were, I think it was Emerald City Smoothie down in Puyallup in South Hill, which I used to drive an hour to go see my coach for check-ins at the time. And I brought this kid to my coach, and was like, and he was being a little bit, a little overconfident and stuff. And this was a humbling experience for me. But he goes, because this kid wanted to do a show out of town, and my coach was like, why are you doing a show out of town when we got the Emerald Cup here? And I literally like, oh crap, he hit a nerve, and it was like, the Emerald Cup's here. It's like it's like one of the biggest shows in the country, if not the world. You know, it's a tough show to win.
Yeah.
Why you got to go out of town? He was literally calling him out. And this kid wanted to coach with my coach.
Was it? Do you think the kid was fear like I can't actually compete?
I don't know what
Emerald
it
Cup
is.
competition was too strong.
I'm like, man,
and he was
for
trying
me,
to find an easier show.
If it were me, I want the challenge.
Right. Well, that's what he should want. But
yeah,
I'm saying, was he trying to like? Was that what he was kind of doing?
He's like, what did he say? He goes, "Why are you being a chicken shit?"
Right.
I'm like, oh, dang.
He said this to this guy.
Oh, yeah. So he's like, okay, you want me to coach you? Okay, I'll make a deal with you. This is old school, bro.
Yeah.
11 a.m. tomorrow morning. I want to meet you at the Renton Golds at the time. I think this was 2001, after my first year competing.
Okay.
And this was this taught me a coaching moment. For maybe a future to become a coach. And he was like, I want you to bring your A game, and if you don't bring your A game, I'm not coaching your ass. I'm like, what? I'm like, in my head, I'm like, what's he doing? I never got this kind of time. I was like, well, 11 a.m. he shows up. Crazy training principles. I think he was doing a lot of failure stuff. Full range of motion, the partials. He was doing slow ass reps. It was a leg day, by the way. It was brutal. Slow reps, but loaded plates. A plate loaded hack squat. That we all like to do it.
I love that thing. I actually bought my own band, so I can still use the band.
He loaded literally every plate he could find. I mean, because this kid
got that kid on. So he was humbling this kid.
He was humbling this kid. I was almost like, in my head, I was like, he's doing this on purpose. And I'm actually laughing in my head because the kid was being kind of arrogant. I wasn't expecting him to be that way. It just came out when he was a coach.
Well, dude, that's what they got to do.
And then so my coach was doing not kidding. It wasn't explosive reps. He was doing time under tension, bro. He loaded these plates. This kid was, I think, 6'2", 6'3".
And he was a pretty strong dude.
He was a big dude. And so we had high expectations. I was like, okay, this guy says who he says he is, then he'll challenge him. My coach was challenging him to the core. Right. So he kept speeding up the slow reps. It was supposed to be 4 seconds up, 4 seconds down, 4 seconds up.
Yeah.
All right. And he was literally like, okay.
So he's like, what's wrong? Yeah.
He literally said, I'll say exactly what he said because otherwise it wouldn't be genuine. You keep fucking speeding this up, I'm not coaching your ass. You're almost done. It was like his fourth or fifth set. And I'm like, and then as soon as he sped up the rep again, and you ever seen Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah. Like, what is your major malfunction?
He went off.
Yeah.
He was like, motherfucker. He was like, get on that damn fucking machine right now, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I'm not coaching your ass. And he's like, I can't do it. And I'm like, literally, he was literally done.
He broke him down.
He was literally your size with like probably 200-300 pounds on his frame.
Oh my god!
He's like,
God,
I can't do it. And then he's like, I'm gonna give you one more set. I'm trying to vividly repeat what I saw. I'm gonna give you one more set, and you got a last ditch effort. And if you can't make it through this, I ain't coaching your ass. And I'm like, whoa. Damn. And then so he did it again. He kept speeding up the reps. He kept cheating or whatever. Kept quitting. You need to stop quitting. You're quitting too early. And he was literally basically saying, hey, you need to stop being a pussy, is what he said. And then so he did it one more time. My coach literally, I'm not even kidding, he takes his phone, gets on his phone, and drives off. And I'm like, oh, shoot, he's done. And he's like, I don't know what I did wrong. It sounded like a little kid. And then I call my coach. I'm like, hey, where'd you go, bro? He's like, I'm not coaching that motherfucker.
So he was basically humbling the guy.
Yeah,
he was trying to take the.
I was like,
trying to take the.
I was like,
out of
that
him.
was literally the last time I got anybody that had any speck of arrogance on them around any of my coaches. So like, it's like almost like a screening process. I literally have to pay attention, make sure I'm like, this person is not quite ready to meet my.
Dude, that's
it's like meeting your grandparents, right? They're the mentors of the mentors. I'm not getting these people around my coach until they're ready to receive that information.
But do you think it was your coach kind of did that to him because this kid was like kind of arrogant and cocky,
correct.
And he was trying to cut him down a peg,
correct,
to show him like, okay, you're a big, strong guy.
He was basically mirroring him. It's if you read the book by Dale Carnegie, which I learned. I read a lot.
He was giving
of
him the same energy he was putting.
Correct.
Out.
So like the book was called How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a great book for business, for anything, for friendships, for how to deal with people.
Right.
He was doing the mirroring principle. So basically, mirroring in a way that benefits coaching. So for example, this guy was bringing cockiness, so he gave it right back to him. However, my coaches are not like that. And I'm not like that as long as you're coachable.
But that's the thing is he gave him that energy for a reason.
Correct.
So like
correct.
That's what they do at WWE tryouts. So like I did they fly you out to Florida and they put you in this. It's called it's like NXT. It's in Florida and they have like 5 rings set up there and like it's like a 3-day tryout. And I mean that's basically what they do is they try to like break you down physically. So like they put you in this line, they give you a number. And then it's like in the first ring, then into the second ring, then the third, and they put you through these drills, and it's drill, and you get in, then you wait back in line, and then when you're up, you fucking go, and then and everything they're doing, like high knees, wrestling moves, all these things.
Yep.
All they want to see is that you are trying.
Yes.
So like even if you're like physically incapable of doing it, but they see that you're still trying to do it, they're okay, and they're hard on you.
So basically, what they're doing is if they can break you down,
they're trying to break you down.
If they can break you down now, you're not going to be able to handle it when it gets to
they want to see how if you're going to keep fighting. They want to see what your spirit is like.
Yeah.
And we had a guy like that when I was there. Where
everybody needs that kind of coaching.
He was like the guy like, oh, there's something wrong, and he was like sitting by the wall like, oh, I need it, I can't, it was like I'm injured. He said he was injured so that he didn't have to do all the hard cardio stuff.
Yeah.
And then like the next day was like the weightlifting portion, and then for that he was like miraculously fine.
Right.
And then when we had to go do like the cardio shit again, oh, I'm injured, and he's like, and I remember the coach was just like, is that motherfucker sitting on the fucking wall again? You know what I mean? He was pissed.
Sounds familiar.
So it's like you don't ever want to be that guy, man.
No.
Even if you feel like you like can't do it, as long as your spirit is still trying, I feel like people see that in you, like that you're gonna try, like
so,
you're not gonna give up, like you said.
That's the thing. So like I always was caught up in the amount of weight that I was lifting with my coaches. Like, Mark, you're 160 pounds. Myself and Andre are 220. We don't expect you to lift the same weight. We're just looking for no. Okay. I mean. I mean, I can come close, but obviously they're way bigger than me.
There's going to be a difference,
That's like a 60 to 70 pound difference on these guys.
Yeah.
So all I'm used to is lifting heavy weights. It was like, we're not looking for you to lift the same weight. We're looking for effort. Mm-hmm. If you quit now, you're going to quit before you get to the stage. That's basically, basically a Marine mentality, staff sergeant mentality. So all my coaches are military. Lieutenant Colonel, Marines.
They want to see if you're going to break down and quit or if you're going to break down and keep trying.
Marines, what else? Staff sergeant at a correctional facility. One of my coaches now, Andre Scott, who's taught me everything about posing, every category.
Okay.
That is bikini, wellness, figure, female categories, women's physique, figure, I'll name them all. Men's physique, classic physique, bodybuilding, all the categories I've ever done.
So you train posing in all those different categories?
All, yep.
Because I've seen you do a lot of work with like the bikini and stuff like that. That's pretty impressive, man. That you can.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give a shout out again to Andre on that. So if it weren't for him teaching me all the nuances of different categories, it's like training somebody for a pageant. So like it's the total thing. Whether it's you're helping somebody with their diet, their workout programming, and all the way to the presentation. Why I wanted to learn all that from Andre was because I was like, dang, I'm driving here 3.5 hours to Portland. My coach is in Portland.
Right.
To gain all this knowledge. So I was like, I'm already coming here, so is it okay if you apprentice me? And I'm like, because that way, all the stuff you're teaching me, I'll try to duplicate to the best of my ability, and turn that information into transformation with my own clients. And that way they don't have to drive 3.5 hours, and I'll be extension.
Yeah, you're learning from him so they can learn from you. So what are some of the main takeaway? Like, what's just some of your philosophy on stuff? Like do you have any like main, just like on bodybuilding, is there any kind of principles or like belief systems that you kind of have that your style of training? Like, how would you describe it? Like, what's some stuff that you like?
A little bit of everything. So, whether it's straight sets, giant sets, tri sets, supersets, compound sets, different principles like periodization, 4 to 8 weeks of certain training principles, or like the shock principles. Like I was trained in the very beginning a lot of instinctive stuff. My
Right.
coach, Turk Fickling, would always randomly throw stuff at me. So
Yep.
I actually believe in, to be honest with you, I'm not biased towards anything because I don't want to leave anything to chance. You have to almost like
You
evolve.
keep an open mind. Yeah.
Keep an open mind, and you got to diversify yourself. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to work with every facet or every category of person, because you have to be able to not only be flexible with your coaching, but we also learn stuff from our own clients as well. Everybody's a different specimen. I didn't know certain people could be allergic to mushrooms. Some people are allergic to eggs. Some people are allergic.
Oh, so that's
can't
when
have
you're
it.
doing their diet.
Oh,
You
the
have to,
diet
like,
too.
So when you get a client, the training package kind of like changes for every.
It can.
Like even,
It can. In the beginning, when you don't know what you're doing,
you kind of use a template, I'm sure.
yeah, you're almost like a template. Like you're almost duplicating what your coach taught you.
Right.
And
that makes sense.
You find out like, oh crap, that.
But then
can't-
you make
that-
tweaks and adjustments based
can't-
on your client.
That
I
can't
imagine.
work. In the beginning, you don't know any better, right? You're just basically doing what you were taught, and you're like, okay, I got to remember this is a different individual. They're not Mark Sindayen. They're not
Right, so you know what works well for you.
Yeah, they're not
but you're-
Carlo.
These
They're
are all
not-
different people.
Yeah, they're not a female. They're not a guy. They're not a girl. You have to be able to make changes based on that
Adjustments.
person's metabolism or lack thereof, or if
Or
they
what
have,
foods affect them certain ways.
or if
I
they have
imagine.
health issues. That's a big thing too.
Oh, yeah. I imagine.
So somebody has gluten issues. They have something like they have either hypothyroidism, they have messed up metabolisms, or they have hyperthyroid where their metabolism is incredibly fast, or
And
you have
that's-
somebody who's genetically gifted. They're all different.
That's a real thing, right?
Absolutely. So and
'Cause
some
sometimes
people,
I-
and some people have injuries too. So like you can't give somebody squats on their program if they have hip and knee issues.
Right.
There's no way. Now you're backing yourself into a corner for a lawsuit.
Oh
pretty
yeah,
much.
you got to be really careful with that stuff. So you got to No, I was gonna say that thyroid thing's funny because I've had people tell me about like, sometimes people use that as like an excuse, but it is a real thing. You ever heard somebody like,
Yes.
I think it's my thyroid, bro. I got it. It's like, dude, I just saw you eating pizza and drinking beer. Shut the fuck up. Your thyroid's fine. Like I've seen shit like that.
If they're doing that 7 days a week.
I'm saying like sometimes people
So,
like they're looking for an excuse.
You don't know until you actually are making effort, as whether it's you're eating rice, quinoa, sweet potatoes, and you're actually eating a regimented, structured diet, whatever way that is. Whether you're doing, you're counting your macros, or you're actually doing a meal plan, whatever way keeps you from cheating. But you don't know you have any of those things unless you're consistently going to, whether it's to see a doctor.
Right.
To get your blood work done, to make sure that you have all these,
That's my point, though. Some of it is real stuff.
Yeah, you got to
Like,
make sure that you don't have certain predispositions, so you know what to avoid. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So,
And having
Yeah.
you said that certain foods, like you said to your coach, like, oh, I'm trying to eat Eggo waffles. He's like, bro, no. Like, I'm sure certain when you get down to those like minuscule levels of fat,
Right.
And I think you said this last time, like. It depends. Like, there's certain foods that are just gonna like make you not look as good, and you find those out on your own through trial and error, right?
Yep. You find that on your own, or you could even take a food sensitivity test.
Right.
Like
Everyone's
there's several
different. Like, they have a thumbprint, but it's for like what kind of foods affect you differently. I'm sure.
Yeah, and then that comes to this thing too. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. What I would say is I never was taught any, try to find the easy way to do things. I'm like, there is no easy way to diet.
No, it's just hard.
Whether, like I said, if you're tracking your numbers, whether it's protein, carbs, and fats, or you're just doing calories, you're hitting a certain calorie amount daily. As long as you're following exactly what you should be doing and not doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing.
Do a lot of clients like? Is it hard to like? Do you have like? Because most of the time they want to follow the plan, but it's like. That thing happens when they get down to certain levels where like, oh fuck, they just messed up and they
want
eat
to cheat.
some,
So
and they cheat. Do a lot of them tell you, or do you think do you have to like? Have you ever to call out a guy like, bro, I know you cheated? Like,
you can tell. You can tell they are, but also the other thing, the great thing about working with women is they tell you the truth.
They'll tell you.
You know what? I might as well commit suicide. I just told you. I'm just gonna tell you. I cheated yesterday. I'm like, so what should I do about it? I was like, you can't just bounce back.
There's nothing you can do.
That's the way I coach on that.
Is that best practice? Like, if you do mess up, just go back to the plan the next day.
Yes.
Get back on.
Because you can't do anything.
There's nothing you can do
It's
about
like,
it. You could try to do like a bunch of extra cardio.
It's like an inmate, right?
Yeah.
So you already committed the murder. I mean, you can't do anything.
It's already, the damage is done.
All you can do now is get better.
Get back on the plan and stay consistent.
That sounds cold or whatever, and that sounds really cutthroat. But that's the bottom line. If you cheated, we can't do anything as coaches. If you cheated on your diet, we can't do anything.
Do you like to implement a cheat day?
Absolutely.
Or a cheat meal?
There's two different kinds that I've learned over the years, and I didn't know either one was either acceptable because I didn't know what the heck a cheat meal was until 3 months into a prep.
Right.
Like 21 years ago when I was coaching with Turk, who's still my mentor today. And we bounce off ideas still to this day. And he was like, hey, you want a cheat meal? And I'm like, what the hell is that? A cheat meal? He's like, yeah. Going once, going twice. Do you want one or not? And I'm like, do I look that good right now? And he goes, yep, you're on track. I'm like, okay. And he's like, so you want McDonald's? And I'm like, are you okay today? Is there something wrong? He's like, no, I had no idea. It's actually good for your metabolism depending on who it is. So if you have a great metabolism and you just digest food really well,
it can actually be beneficial.
Yeah, it could be beneficial. I'm like, so can I have like 40 pieces of chicken nuggets and 2 large fries? Yeah, go for it. I'm like, you're not playing around with me right now or something like that. I'm like, is this like...
You actually thought he was messing with you.
Are you testing me right now? He's like, no, this is real. And I'm like, in fact, you'll probably wake up leaner tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. And then he's like, Mark, you got to research about metabolism. Whether it's, a fat-burning hormone called leptin that you activate when you do a cheat meal or, a carb load, like a high carb load that's appropriate to your body. And I'm like,
damn, that is interesting.
Yeah,
shit,
so
dude.
like, so basically, that's the same thing. A lot of our coaches, we have different approaches. Some are really extreme, some are outrageous, and I've done some outrageous ones, of course, just to be really transparent. But you learn different things from different people, from different bodies, but also I study other coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't pull anything out of my hat.
Right.
Nothing I have that I've learned is from me. I've learned it from the people that have mentored me and the other coaches that I look up to.
Right.
So that's just full transparency right there. You learn. There's this principle on how to win friends and influence people, and this goes for anything.
So who's that book by? I'm going to get that. That sounds interesting.
So it's by Dale Carnegie. Very popular. It's for anybody that's in any people-oriented business.
Yeah.
What I was... I lost my train of thought for a second.
You were talking about everything that you've learned has been...
So every man or woman is a superior in some way to you. Mm-hmm. You can learn something from each person, good or bad, doesn't matter. You can learn something from every single person. Just because they're not an IFBB pro and they're like an NPC competitor, or they're a dietitian certified, or they're a personal trainer, or they have stuff that you don't agree with, or they're a motorcyclist, they're a WWE competitor, they're a basketball coach, they are, I don't know, they're a CEO of a certain company, they're of like somewhere like General Electric, CEO of NBC, CNN. I'm going all avenues here. You can learn something from anybody if you want to.
Right.
So, it's like, well, that's not my style.
Because you should never just write people off, right? There's always something you
correct,
can
and that's something I have to sit back and say, "Oh crap, you're being a duck."
Even if it's like what's learning what not to do, right?
Correct.
Like, oh, I saw this person do this way. I did not like that, and it didn't make people feel good. I don't want to be like that person. Mm-hmm. You can even learn that. You know what I mean? Like,
I even have to have my wife go. She's like, "So you think you've arrived, huh?" This is
so she like keeps you in check like that.
I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. You've arrived? I was like, whoa, you need to start getting around your mentors again. Or the other part, too, is there's this concept as a leader, leaders are readers. Mm-hmm. If you start thinking you have arrived, you're in trouble. And
Yeah,
you start smelling your own roses, that means you're either not surrounding yourself with the right people that are going to keep you accountable, or you're hanging around people that are pulling you down, is one of two. You have to make a decision. You have to be able to surround yourself with a majority of people that are going to pull you upwards, not downwards. Whether it's positive, or they're excelling as a mom, they're excelling as a coach, they're excelling as a business owner of a company. Mm-hmm. Like I said, like we were talking about earlier, they're people that you purposely surround yourself with because they make you feel uncomfortable in a good way. You're trying to pull yourself in that right direction.
And that's all about growth. That's what growth is, right?
Always about growth, whether
just
it's
like
in
muscle
business.
Building, like you put your muscle through.
It correlates to the same thing. That's why anybody who does a bodybuilding show or goes through a diet, quote unquote, that's why they say, like all the promoters and all of his coaches, just making it on the stage one time is already a victory. It doesn't.
Right.
It's before you even start placing and all that crap. Getting to the stage is the first battle. If you can get on there, you already won. And then after that, it's a whole bunch of, like, we're crazy. Okay, I'm not going to lie. A lot of us competitors are crazy. So I've done 22 shows. I've done 9 pro shows. I've done 13 amateur shows. To be able to, I know what works for my body. Okay, so it's eating lean white fish and whatever it is, lowering my carbs, lowering my fats to whatever it is, close to 20%. To be able to keep doing that,
for 22 years.
It's an obsession. So the obsession part is, this is what we're in love with. I think you talked about this earlier. We're in love with the fact that our body keeps improving. And we're obsessed with the fact that we're looking more nuts. Even though even though we're like,
it's also just like,
I don't look that good yet. And then your coach is like, what are you talking about?
But it's also like a slow, like, it's almost like a form of art in a way when you're doing the aesthetic stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, because you're literally, your body's this adaptation machine, and you're giving it all these inputs and seeing how they affect the output. Mm-hmm. And so your body is literally like the consequence of all the inputs, and it's like an output. So you're learning how to manipulate variables, foods, training, all this stuff.
Yeah, it's 24 hours a day.
And you're playing with that over 20 years, seeing how it's so like over 20 years of that, you get this really good idea of how to control that. But I don't know if people realize like how crazy that is that you've been doing those shows for 20 some years.
If you can do that, you can do anything, because it's crazy. It's nuts. It's
well, that's what I mean. Like
cosmetics.
I think some people will have like they'll do a couple shows, and it's the most challenging thing they've ever done in their life, right?
Yes.
And you've been doing it for 20 some years. Like how
22.
Yeah, how wild is that? You know what I mean? Like, could you? I mean, most people don't even know what it's like to starve at the level that you do when you get close to the end of the.
So
But you've done it like 22 times, man.
Yeah.
Or not 22 times. Sorry, however many shows you've done.
So to keep doing what we're doing, we're crazy. So like crazy as in like almost like an artist. We're no longer. I would say,
I'd say
a lot
it's
of
close to art, man.
Yeah, a lot of the time, the only athletic part that we do as competitors or bodybuilders is the weight training part.
Right.
Other than that, we're really, to be honest with you, I'll agree with a lot of my counterparts and my peers. We're not really athletes. You're an athlete when you're doing stuff like, football, basketball. So
what would you call yourself? Like a science project, or like?
Ish, yeah, a science project, or you're like an artist, because if you think about it, you're so caught up in how you look.
Yeah.
And you're basically cautiously thinking about what you're going to put in your body for that next meal. What you're going to put in liquid-wise, water, aminos.
And I don't know any of that, but yeah, you guys manipulate water and dehydrate yourself and things like that when you get close to a show. It's crazy, man.
Yep. And the cool thing about it, the rewarding thing about it is what you see on stage, man. So
I mean, I'd say art is the closest.
It's like creating a pie or baking a pie. You can't miss anything. If you miss any part of a rhubarb pie, like my wife is a great,
baking. Yeah,
baking, and then the other side of that is she has a third party perspective too, outside of bodybuilding. What people do, and there's a lot of people that do construction and that do architecture or interior design that are bodybuilders, and it's like the same thing. The only thing difference is it's not the human body. It's a house.
It's your building. You're using materials. You're putting in inputs.
You're building something beautiful.
You're creating.
Yep.
Yeah, I think art is the best way to say it, man. Like it's like a creation of yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty wild too, and I think like comparing it to baking is pretty crazy because like if you're like cooking something, like cooking's different than baking, right? Like if I'm cooking eggs and maybe I screwed up and I burnt them a little bit, but cooking is like, or baking is like having to have all the ingredients right. And then you put it in for a set amount of time, and you have no control over how it ends up other than, like, everything you've put in, if you've done it correctly and at the right time and the right amounts of ingredients, then it becomes what it becomes, right? And then I think the more you do it, I imagine, I don't know because I don't bake much, but, like, in my family, there's great bakers, and, like, the sweets and stuff they make, dude, it's, like, insane. But, it took them years. Like, my grandma was, like, my grandma Dolores who's my mom's mom, was like famous for making these things called kolaches. I don't know if you know, like, it's like,
that sounds delicious.
Yeah, they're like, it's basically like this bread dough, and then they put like pie filling in, and it gets wrapped up, and you put egg wash on, and it gets baked. But she would like win like the county fair. How many years in a row she would win it? But it's like, think how long it took her to like perfect that dough making process.
Absolutely.
And she probably learned it from like her mom or passed down from an aunt or something. And then she passed that down to like, some of my cousins and relatives. And it's like, but she just knew how to do that. But that was just trial and error. So like, how many times did she have to like do something, see how it turned out, make adjustments? That's what bodybuilding is.
So we were just talking about earlier. You got to fail a lot. You got to make a lot of mistakes to make something perfect.
Yeah, you're kind of a baker, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a baker. You're
of your body.
You're trying to build a car. But here's the difference. Like what Arnold said. If you watch Pumping Iron, he goes, the easy thing to do is on a pie is like a piece of art. All you do is you're painting it, right?
Yeah.
You're not going through any pain. The difference is we're going through...
You're painting with pain. You're baking with pain.
We're doing mental issues like, crap, okay, I'm either going to cheat or I'm going to follow my regimen.
Right.
I'm either going to eat chicken and rice or I'm going to eat Five Guys daily. You have to make a decision. Fuck. It's one of the two. So you got to be a nutcase to continue to keep doing that. And it's really based on how you look and what you put in your body, and it's 24 hours a day. Every 1 or 2 hours, you're cautious to think about, what did I eat asparagus?
I'd say it's a mental test too.
Yep.
Of like beating yourself mentally, because there's like going to be that voice in your head that's like, dude, just fucking eat this thing, or like, you know what I mean?
It's like you're gonna look shredded.
Yeah.
You have to have that voice in your head. Okay. It's like, do you want to win? Do you want to place?
Right.
Or do you want to embarrass yourself?
Oh, man, and I imagine that pressure gets more and more when you know you have a show coming up. And you know what I'm saying? Because, like, I'm doing this all for fun. So, like, if I fuck up, and I think sometimes that's why it's good to have the show or something. Or, like, when I used to wrestle and I knew I had a big show coming, it would make me work way harder. Because it's like you have that pressure of, like... So, like, if I'm just a guy doing this for fun and I eat a potato chip or something and throw off my diet, it's like, well, what are the consequences? There's not that many because I'm not going to be on a stage.
Right.
Other than my own disappointment in myself, which is huge.
That's a little different because you're at more like what we call like a 90-10, 80-20 rule. You're just trying to look good and feel good. You're not trying to...
Yeah.
You're not trying to run yourself into the ground because when you're trying to get shredded for a show or
it's
trying
totally
to get
different.
You're messing with your hormones.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
definitely.
You're gonna feel like crap. I'm not gonna lie.
You're taking yourself down to these levels of
levels where you're
body
like
fat that's dangerous.
2 to 5% body. It's like near death, pretty much.
It's definitely near death, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And people have died. I mean.
Yeah, people have died, and it's either you didn't know what was going on with their body or what they were predisposed to, or they just did way too much.
Right.
You know what I mean?
God, that's so crazy.
Yeah. So, but is it worth it in the end? Yes, to a certain extent. Depends on
who you are, probably.
It depends on what approach you're taking too. So,
right.
I'll go back to 7 years ago when I got my pro card. when I was going for my pro card.
Right, and this is a cool story, right?
And I guess I'll go back to the Emerald Cup. You know, there's two lessons here is about, you know, character and victory, and then also what to do and what not to do. So 2015 or December 2014, I decided to do the Emerald Cup, probably my last one. And this goes to where I had no idea I was going to be a pro someday. I wanted to win the Emerald Cup overall as a 150-pound bodybuilder, and to be able to walk away and say, I did it. I beat all the big guys. I have nothing else to prove. I'm going to hang it up. I'm going to put that sword on my wall, and, you know, I'm on to the next venture. Yep. And then what happened is, you know, it was my best look ever, and shout out to Matt Porter, my old coach, RIP. He passed away a few years ago. Sorry about that. But I'm eternally grateful for Matt Porter because, you know, he showed me how it was to, you know, have a structured, detailed diet. Going into my first show that I ever did with him, that was 2015, my 15th year competing. And then I ended up, you know, I put my best foot forward, did everything I possibly could, and I lost the overall by 2 points. And because I lost that overall, that's why we're here today. That's why I have my own team. That made you
hungry to do it again?
That made me hungry to do it again. So when I got off stage, I was like, crap.
Because you were like this close, but fell short. So it's like, now I want to work harder.
So like in my head, I'm like, shit, I lost. I can't go out like this. So everybody, when I got off stage, of course, I'm thinking about food. I'm not even thinking about my placing. I'm just thinking about chilling and hanging out with the family and, you know, just partying, right?
Right.
Everybody's like, you need to do the USAs in 11 weeks and go get your pro card. I'm like, what? I already dieted for 18 weeks, man. And I was like, and, you know, of course, everybody was a little mad about my placing, and, you know, I should have won the show. I was like, guys, I can't do anything. I was like, I'm mad too. You guys are more mad than I am, but at the same time, you know, you got to, you know, a learning lesson here is handle yourself with class. You know, I lost to my friend Cody, who was a heavyweight, 218 pounds. I was outweighed by at least 69 pounds.
But so you didn't want to start playing the victim card and be like, buy into that. So you're like, no, I'm going to take the responsibility myself.
You win like a man, you lose like a man.
Right.
So, like, when I lost, I was like, okay, maybe I'll do it. You know, coach gave me a break for at least, I think it was a week or two, think about it. I'm like, okay. And, you know, took away a little bit of the cardio, get my body to reset, and then, you know, and then I decided to do it. It's like, all right, I'm gonna do the USAs in, you know, 11 weeks, you know, and then that totaled 29 weeks, bro, of dieting. That's
what you told me on the last.
And I was already at the best. I was probably about 2 to 3, maybe 4% body fat, like the lowest body fat you possibly.
Is that the longest you've ever been in a like calorie deficit? Probably.
I'd say the second one was 2018 and 2019 when I did 5 shows.
Okay.
So, but that was nothing but sheer will going into the last 11 weeks because my body could not take much more. It was just it was just willpower. So it just goes to show that you know, you put your mind to something, you can do anything because everything else is done. Everything else wants to quit, but this is really powerful.
It all becomes mental then at that point.
Right. So. Yeah. Going into that show, you know, there was a lot of hype into the USAs, NPC USAs, which a lot of my friends and you know, and peers and clients have done in the past. It's a really prestigious show. It's a hard show to win. You know, there was a lot of hype into it. I was I'll fast forward to the story of a day before weigh-ins. I flew into Las Vegas. I think it was Tuesday or Monday, 5 or 4 days before the show or weigh-ins. I was 16 pounds over a day before weigh-in. Our check-ins is Thursday,
this is the cool story, man. Like
159 pounds, already peeled, full, and I could probably step on stage.
But 16 pounds over?
16 pounds over.
16 pounds over.
And I'm in my head, not a negative thought in my head of either me and my coach. I just didn't want – it's just like if you
were just like, I'll lose this.
If you say it out loud that you can't do it, it's not going to happen.
You just wrote a contract.
I was like, in my head, I'm like, how am I going to do this? 16 pounds, and then I had a counterpart with my one of my teammates. He had to lose 22. So there was 2 of us. We were the sauna crew. I don't recommend this, by the way. Little disclosure on that, or disclaimer. And I'm like in my head. I'm like, I don't know. I'm gonna get down there, but
it's very similar to like UFC fighters or wrestlers that have to lose a crazy amount of weights right before a fight.
Yeah, man. And my coach was like, we just need you 16 pounds lighter with that same look. And I'm like, my jaw just
You're like,
dropped.
sure,
I'm
man,
like,
easy.
Okay, easy.
You're like, I got
So
this.
the first thing in the morning when I woke up is like, you know, I think we had like 12 hours till check-in still, because check-ins don't end till 7 or 8 o'clock at the USA's. Okay. So he has me in 3 or 4 layers. I'm in his wife's spandex. I'm not kidding. I'm not even kidding about this. His wife's spandex, his wife's sweats, her sweatshirts, her spandex upper. I have his sweatshirts on. I mean, these are big people. I'm like,
bro, that's hilarious.
I'm a little dude. I had 3 layers of things, and it's 120 degrees outside in Las Vegas. I don't have any water retention or body fat left to lose.
Right, so you said you're walking around
the neighborhood.
and you have nothing to give.
And there's nothing to give, and there's nothing. There's literally nothing else to lose, right? So I'm trying to get the both of us on here.
Yeah. I know, it's tough there, dude.
Yeah. So I'm walking around the neighborhood. I maybe did like 3 or 4 laps or something.
Yep.
I wasn't sweating, bro. And my coach was like, hey, why aren't you sweating? You need to walk faster. I was like, dude, I don't have any body fat left.
Like, I'm empty.
And
There's
I'm not sweating.
left.
He's like, all right, we got to go do the sauna. And I'm like, okay. And I had still maybe 7 hours until check-in's over.
Yep.
And then my teammate, shout out to my friend Rico Zavala. He's a middleweight. He was a competitor. He's like, okay, this is what you want to do. I've done this. I'm a wrestler. I know how to cut weight. I'm like, okay. I literally didn't listen to the guy. It was 1 year, and I was being stubborn. I was like, nah, he's not a better competitor than me. I am. That was bad. So for the first 2 or 3 hours, I was in the sauna with 3 layers of sweats on, and nothing was budging.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, I'm losing 1 pound every 2 or 3 hours. I'm like, okay, I got like 13, 12 pounds, 10 pounds left. You know what? Just for giggles, let me strip down to what he's telling me to do. He told me to strip down to my boxers or swimming trunks. And, bro, every time you sweat, I'm not kidding, it's going to be easy for you to cut weight if you dry off every time you sweat. Dry off, get out, go back in. Because if you think about it, Mark, if the sweat's laying on your body, it's going to make it think it's cold, so you're not going to be cutting weight. Mm-hmm. And I literally did not listen to his instructions. Because I was like,
for the
first 3 hours. So I wasted 3 hours. So I'm like, you know what? Just for giggles, let me give it a try. I'm like weighing myself every hour or every 30 minutes after I keep getting out and drying off. I'm like, oh shit, he's right.
Okay.
Fuck, this is working. I was like, I should have done this 3 hours ago. I just wasted 3 hours. And weight is coming down. I'm down. I got 9 pounds left. I got 6 pounds left. And I'm down to 4 pounds. And I literally feel like I'm going to die. But his method was fast. I was cutting weight like nobody's business. So basically, you're keeping your body hot the whole time. So
which
dry off.
Of course, that makes sense.
Yeah, get the sweat off. Get out. Go back in. And I kept doing it. And then I think it was like an hour or 20 minutes away from check-ins being over. This NPC USA's in Las Vegas. And I'm at the Hard Rock Hotel, at my friend's hotel, which has a sauna. Like, I still have to walk 4 blocks away, and this is bad, dude.
Were you like dead by that time?
I was like leaning on my friend Tarna, who got her pro card too that weekend.
Just beyond depleted, I imagine.
Yeah, I felt like I was gonna pass out. But I had 2 bodyguards watching the sauna. I was my friend Vladi, and then Tarna were in the sauna. They felt so sorry for me that Tarna was like, you know what? I'm going to stay in the sauna with you for another 45 minutes because I feel sorry for you right now.
Yep. Just like moral support.
Yeah, she already made weight. She only needed to drop 4 pounds. I needed to drop 16. So I think it was like 20 minutes before. I was like, okay, I'm at 143. I'm at right where I need to be. But little did I know my scale was broken. So I was like, you know what? I'll stay in another 20, 30 minutes just to make sure I'm lower than, maybe the scale at the check-ins at
right, just
at
to
the
be
MC.
safe. You don't know how much it varies or whatever.
Right before I take off, I'm 142. I'm like, cool, I'm good, but I'm walking like I haven't had food or maybe fasted. I don't recommend this for anybody, by the way. This is just a whole lot of crazy. I'm walking 4 blocks to the check-ins, and it's the longest 4 blocks in history, and it's all this crazy. So I walk there. I walk immediately in check-ins. I'm literally one of the last people on a weigh-in. I barely made weight. I was 143.20. The cutoff was 143.25. And then the rest is history. It was, I would say, if you were that depleted, Nick, carbs and fat was the most amazing. I was like wiping that rice on my face.
Like the rice probably tasted like the best rice you've ever
yeah,
had.
and then
in your
I
life.
hadn't. I think I depleted water for like at least 16 to 24 hours. So I hadn't had much water. I hadn't had much food, and then so I had, just to give you a detailed thing on what I did. Every 2 hours for the next 6 or 8 hours, I had 2 cups of rice. Man, that rice never tasted so good. And, you know, even though I still had fish for, 2 to 3 or 4 ounces per serving, I also had 12 ounces of water every meal. So I had 48 ounces of water right before bed on Thursday night, right before the show.
Right.
And so I ballooned right back up to 159 pounds.
But you had already made your weight, so you made the weight.
I already made the weight, and I was ready to go. And they, one of the risks when you do that is overspilling. They call it overspilling. It's when you do too much fat and carbs, and now you're at the point where you lose all your lines. There wasn't a line lost in sight. Okay. It just benefited my body. So, I was even able to do dirty stuff. Like I was able to eat English muffins with jam and a New York steak the next morning. I was in heaven, dude. But I ended up weighing at 157 pounds on stage, 14 pounds heavier.
Yo,
and
isn't that crazy, man?
I literally dominated my class, won with a perfect score. I didn't even know that, to be honest with you. But usually when you're centered in your class and you don't move, it's a good sign. But the most irritating thing about a show, a national show, is you have 2 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't get the trophy or the results until the next day. So it's literally 20 hours.
So you're waiting there to see if you get your pro card.
Yes, I'm in the middle.
You're pretty sure, though.
Pretty sure, but at the same time, I'm like telling everybody to shut up. I'm like,
well, they're already acting like you won.
Yeah, like, hey, congratulations. I'm like, for what? I'm like, I don't have the trophy in my hand yet. And they're like, no, you got it, dude. Don't worry about it. I'm like, dude, I don't even know if I won yet. Mm-hmm. I'm like, even though I'm in center. And then a bunch of my friends, longtime friends of mine, was like, yeah, I want you to remember this day forever and relish in it because you deserve it. I'm like, okay, I gotta go.
Because you were wanting to, like, you don't like to celebrate before.
I don't.
It's like for sure.
I don't. So
that's probably a good thing.
It was the longest 2 days ever. So, but it was monitoring, my look, my weight, my food for the next 24 hours. And then it came down to, finally the placings at 4:30 in the evening on Saturday. I think it was July 26th or 27th of 2015. And they're calling 5th place, blah, blah, blah. I'm obviously in the top 5. And then 4th place, and then 3rd place. And now it's the 2 of us. And
you already know that you're not 5th. You already know that. So
and then
you're above 3rd.
And I'm either 1st or 2nd. And then they call 2nd place, and
that's when you knew.
That's when I knew, and obviously you get emotional because now it's like, crap, I didn't even know I was going to be a pro someday, and that's that story behind that, and
that's a crazy journey from that time you started out.
Yeah, that was the most publicity I ever got as an athlete, to be honest with you, and I knew I was, it wouldn't last a long time because. Usually the little guys aren't really recognized in the sport. I mean, I'm not one of them big dudes. I'm one of the little guys, that...
But is that... When did you get that nickname, Filipino Giant Killer? Is that from that show?
I actually got it...
Before that.
It was before that, 2 years before that, when I won the Washington State overall.
Right. You told me that last time. We'll get to that story some other time, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. And that's how Giant Killer Crew, my company name, or GK Crew, was created, is from that. And I was named by my coaches, Andre Scott and Turk. And
which is super dope.
The MC, Kim Kong Ferrison, it was like, that's kind of a corny name, but I'll stick with it. Today, that's my brand, and that's what my team is called. So, and there's an underlying thing behind that. I didn't even know that, that all kinds of quotes. I didn't even think about that. My wife has amazing insight. If you think about Giant Killer Crew, it's like David and Goliath, right? So it's, what are the giants we're trying to kill? It's hatred. It's self-esteem, self-doubt, procrastination, whether it's being unhealthy.
So you can look at it in all these other ways.
In all these other ways.
It's like a metaphor.
So it's not just bodybuilding, it's a mentality, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. I mean, that's just a positive take on it, dude. Like, I mean, these are the things that are in people's life that are giants.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that is a good metaphor.
Yeah,
it's like,
whether it's, you know...
could be anything. Like you were talking about alcohol addiction or like...
An addiction or, you know...
Yeah.
Getting over yourself. So.
Right. Yeah, I kind of like that you don't like to celebrate until you're for sure.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because it's the arrogance thing, like you're talking about.
Yeah,
because
I learned a lesson from that. And going back to the Washington State in 2013, it's kind of a bad thing to win a whole entire show a week before you head to a big national competition. So because if you think about it, you win the Washington State, the overall bodybuilding, right? You're 150 pounds. You beat guys that are 176 pounds, 200 pounds, 225 pounds, and you're in your head like, who could possibly beat me in my class at the USA's in about 7 days? And it's almost not good sometimes to go in too overconfident. And then a week later, I ended up getting my ass kicked at my second national show. I ended up placing 7th.
Which that like humbled you again.
Yep. And for example, I have one of my buddies on here, Mike McConnell. He was one of the guys who was in the top 3 in that USA's, in my second USA's. I placed 7th. Even if I was dialed in, I probably wouldn't have been able to beat Mike or Joey or Derek, the guys who were in the top 3.
That had nothing to do with your conditioning. That was nothing you did. It was just
they were just
literally genetically bigger dudes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's where I decided to, a year or two later when I decided to come back to the USA's, which is kind of funny. It was an accident because 2 years later I wanted to do the Emerald Cup White and win the whole show. And then I lost the show, and they're like, "Oh, here we go. I'm gonna go for my pro card." And then that's.
But you said that was almost good for you that you had lost because it made you hungry again.
Correct. Yeah, it was good because, you find out a lot about yourself or about the person during adversity.
Yes.
You could either go in a corner, feel sorry for yourself, or you could bounce back and fight.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
No, that's a good lesson. So you think it's better when you. Going into a big show, if you just won a show, it could make you a little overconfident.
It can.
Yeah.
So, and if you do win a show before you get your pro card and you win the entire show, all I would say is act like your competition is 10 times better than you that's going into the show. Cause
keep yourself sharp.
Yeah, if you think you're better than everybody at that point, that's a bad place to be, man. That's why you have mentors and coaches. It's like, no, you're not that good. Yet.
Right.
Yet. So you have to be able to have people like, whether it's your spouse, your wife, like my wife, straight up. You literally, even this is how, we, really program our minds for excellence. I'm going to a photo shoot, bro. It's just a photo shoot, okay?
Yep.
And I'm like, you know what? I don't look full enough. Maybe I could keep eating Doritos, rice cakes, and peanut butter. And then my wife literally goes, Mark, you need to stop eating. You're losing your lines. I'm like, dude, it's just a photo shoot. I don't care. I was like, you're losing all the definition that you worked for. And I'm like, literally, whoa, I need to look big on the photo shoot.
I think that's kind of what you're talking about, having impartial eyes on you, because I think we do this stuff where, like, we want something, we want to cheat or something, and it's like you start making these little things, like justifying it to yourself.
Yeah.
And honestly, you're just lying to yourself, basically, to justify what you want, which is I want to eat some fucking Doritos. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But then you need somebody around you to be like, that's actually not a good idea. Well, I need to look bigger. It's like, yeah, you're just justifying that. You got to have somebody, like, telling you, like, it's just your brain playing tricks on you.
Yeah.
Because you're just, you know what I mean? That's what happens. Yeah.
That's when you have a mentor say, I don't think you should do this.
Right.
Or, like, say, I have assistant coaches in my crew. I empower them and I say, I need you to be able to say you disagree with me. And I was like, like, for example, a client's protocol or peak week going into the show the last couple of days, whether we should give them more food, more carbs, less carbs, more fat, less fat, more protein, less protein, whatever. I need you to tell me, you're not a follower. I try to empower everybody around me. I need you to tell me that this is a shitty protocol.
Right.
And I'll be able to say, okay, well, we're trying to help the athlete be their best version, okay? This is not about me or whatever, even though I'm the head coach and this is my company. If you think that's what we should do and that's the right approach, then that's what we'll do.
Really?
You know what I mean?
Do that. Okay.
Oh, yeah. So it's very there's a reason why like I said, you surround yourself with amazing people. And people that'll steer you in the right direction. So there's a reason why you put these people in your lives too. So they can give you feedback, so they can steer you in the right direction. Whether it's the athlete or the coach or whatnot, you have to stay in a glass house. You have to be able to be accountable.
Right. So sometimes you think the athlete is like actually said stuff like that and been right, that maybe you were a little wrong and they actually had a better idea of their own body.
Correct.
So you have to keep an open mind as a coach.
You have to keep an open mind. So like Lieutenant Colonel Sean Calder was one of my coaches, who also, just to give you a background on him, he's an anesthesia nurse. He has a doctorate in biochemistry.
That's got to be
not an idiot by any means.
Yeah.
And basically he said, all I'm here to do, Mark, is is fine tune what you already do well. So and take out the stuff that does not work well with you. Okay. That's all I'm here to do. Yep. I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. So you tell me what's been working for you. It's the same thing I approach my clients. You know your body better than I do, unless you haven't been paying attention for 25 or 30 years. You can tell. So and when they say, Mark, salmon works better for me than red meat does, or red meat works better for me than salmon. And how I know that is how my digestion responds.
And then trial and error, probably like you eat something and then you see that it's affected your body.
Correct. And you have to be able to you have to allow people, you have to give the people the benefit of the doubt. So you can tell when they're lying, of course, because like their body's looking worse. So, but if it's working, it's working. Why would you need to fix something that's not broken?
True.
So that's what a lot of my mentors tell me. If it's not broken, don't do anything. You don't need to do some magic thing to make yourself look good. If you're already on track and you're trending 5% body fat, you have a good combination of fullness and conditioning. Why do you need to do Why do you need to do a crazy peak week protocol or whatever? All you need to do is just make slight adjustments here and there. Nothing
and
crazy.
Stay consistent with what you're already doing.
Unless you're fat, of course.
Then you have to make quite a few adjustments. But so how many clients do you have like right now, or how many at any given time are you doing like so many check-ins? Like,
so I have currently
it's probably a lot to keep up with.
Training for a show. Typically about a high percentage of my clients are competitors. So I would say about 20 to 30 are preparing for shows right now. Outside of that, maybe about 10 lifestyle clients. I have people who take breaks here and there. Off and on, my team can span almost up to 100, 200 people right now.
Yeah, that's wild, man. That's a lot of people depending on you. That's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well,
hope that helps. It gives
I think you've given a lot of people a good perspective on what you do, and let's take some time to like shout out all of your sponsors, and we can wrap this up, and we'll definitely do it again. Because I want to have you back on here with your buddy Sam next time. He's going to be on tomorrow night. But I think you and him would be a lot of fun together, and we'll just have a nice hang like this again. And we can.
Yeah. So I want to give a shout out to all my mentors who, I'm a product of them. So I'll give a shout out to Andre Scott, who taught me all the posing categories, taught me how to be a professional. He's a father of 3. Who's staff sergeant at a correctional facility. Turk Fickling, who responsible for helping me be a giant killer, because he helped me win the Washington State overall, helped me win a lot of shows, helped me place in the top 5 and top 7 at the national level. And we still bounce off ideas off of each other today. And then RIP to Matt Porter, the inventor of MPA supplements, my coach who was responsible for me getting to my pro status, Lieutenant Sean Calder, who also is a longtime friend of mine and mentor, a brother, a great husband and a father of 2. And then, of course, my wife, Lorraine, who's been with me through thick and thin before we were married, and now we've been married for 26 years. And, of course, I want to recognize my daughters. By the way, shout out to my daughters for moving up belts in karate. So my youngest awesome. My youngest is an advanced brown belt now. My eldest isn't. I don't know how many degrees of black belt you need to be, but she's up there. But I love my kids, talented kids, amazing kids. And then, of course, my Pastor James, and Sharon, that means big sister. for keeping me grounded, even though I'm a knucklehead a lot. But that's everybody. And then the other shout outs are
sponsors
to Drip Fit, my topical sponsor, and FX Supplements, who's been with me for 4 years. Those two companies have Warhammer gym gear, my clothing sponsor, have been for 5 years now, going on 6. My gym sponsor, Thrive in Monroe Fitness, Shane Johnson, shout out. And then Home Gym, Body Shop, of course. If you guys are around town, come and visit. Danielle and Jeff have created an amazing atmosphere.
Great atmosphere there. Yes.
And then for posing, my posing classes, I want to give a shout out to Jamie and Laura for allowing me to use their facility, especially to get my athletes around Big Iron, Everett, and Seattle. And then I think that's it. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody here.
If you did, we'll get them on the next round, dude. You'll think of it. And
But
no, I really appreciate you coming back. We had some technical difficulties the first time, and I want to definitely have you back again, man. And that was super interesting, just hearing about your journey in bodybuilding and just your opinions on coaching and everything. And man, I really appreciate it, Mark.
Yeah, thanks so much, right. Nick. And I'm sure we'll be on here again, or maybe I'll get some other guys on here as well.
Hell yeah, sounds good. All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you next time.